Welcome back to Miyazaki and Me. I'm Kyle,
And I'm your favorite host, Shane.
and we are going over not our favorite, but well, actually, it might be one of our favorites, but it is My Neighbor Totoro.
Yes, the logo itself, we are pretty much reviewing Jerry West right here.
Yeah, we are reviewing the mascot of Studio Ghibli itself, My Neighbor Totoro. A very, as we discussed in the previous episode, this was a double feature with Grave of the Fireflies, which is kind of baffling when you think about it, but it makes sense in the long run of both of those films were not as commercially viable, so they put them
Yeah,
as a double feature to hopefully recoup that
yeah. The
expense.
the uh, the idea of this movie was actually originally rejected earlier in the '80s, when Miyazaki brought it up, and it was only agreed to be done because of the double feature. The financiers and distribution executives, uh, quote, didn't think the furry giant could take off literally or figuratively, and also that distributors simply didn't believe there was an audience for a story about two little girls and a monster in modern Japan. Because, Japan's always been bad with monster movies, right?
Yeah, they never do well. They never are known for them at all. Um, but this ends up as the double feature. It ends up going to make 1.7 billion yen in Japan when it was the double feature. So
It didn't really become successful until it was out of theaters, but it was originally a flop in the box office itself. A lot of the money that it made that you're reading for the making are actually from like re-releases and
yes,
redistribution to theaters. But once it made its way to television, it developed a cult following in Japan itself.
yes,
This movie actually had the worst opening box office of any Ghibli movie.
yeah. That doesn't surprise me in some aspects. And it was released just like Grave of the Fireflies is on April 16th, 1988, as part of their double feature, and we went over in more detail during the last episode our animation timeline, but it had some stiff competition for sure. The first Appleseed movie, Akira, The Land Before Time, Oliver and Company, and if we count it as an animated movie, Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this movie, if it had been released in theaters in America at that time, which I don't believe it was, I believe it was only released in Japan, would have even dented the box office at all.
No, it wouldn't have. I don't believe so either. But as we've said, upon re-releases, people love this movie.
Yeah, no, it is, like I said, it's a cult classic. Developed a very large following of people from the kind of wholesome nature of the film. That it's a sweet film rather than, a lot of the things that you mentioned there. As sweet as Land Before Time is, it's dark. I mean, it's Don Bluth, so of course it's dark. And there was a lot of kind of darkness
Yeah,
in children's movies at the time. Like there either had to be a dark film or action packed is really what they wanted, and this didn't really have either of those. So once it went to television, people found it as kind of a sweet kind of release film for to let the kids watch, because it's nothing in this movie really makes you worry.
no, nothing like, and even so, like the only things that actually make me like get worried during the point of this movie, I think, were because of the juxtaposition and being so close to watching it with Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah, since there's so much child death in that movie, that if you are not sure how this movie's gonna
Yes.
end and you go into this one, and the second they're searching for a child, you go, "Oh no, not again! Don't do this again."
Yep, exactly. It's like, oh no, like if anything, like no, normally in the movie, in a movie, it'd be a little bit of a worry, like, oh no, where are they gonna find May? And then it's like, oh, yeah, well, of course they're gonna find May. She'll be fine. It's just, oh, let's see how long it'll take Setsuko to find her. But then you realize, like, oh man, we just watched this really dark movie where a bunch of kids die, and are they gonna pull that again? And it's like, oh, they're fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, an interesting thing about this movie is that it's well, two interesting things. One, it's set in a real place. It is based in Tokorozawa, Japan, which is about an hour outside of Tokyo. And it is actually based loosely off of Miyazaki's childhood. Obviously, he didn't ride a cat bus or hang out with a troll, but his mother was sick when he was a child, and he was living in this area, and he kind of based around kind of feelings that he was having back when he was a kid, which is one of the reasons why he was really
Yeah, I
pushing to make
believe
this
he
movie.
actually wrote that part of why he had the two main characters be female was the fact that he thought that if the movie was two boys, it would be too painful because it would be too much like his experience as a child. Because yeah, his mother had, I believe they said it was spinal tuberculosis, and that's
Yes.
why she was in the hospital. And yeah, it's such a wonderfully made film, though, and you can see from the very beginning. Speaking of the juxtaposition between the two movies and comparing and contrasting them, Totoro is so colorful, and you get these bright, lush greens and blues. Even in like our opening segment, which is the dad and Setsuko and May uh, driving into town to find their new house that they're staying at while the mother is sick. And just, yeah, so much, you have all these people, just going and getting the rice paddies from the fields, and, all this lush, so much water and so much, nice blue skies and green grass and the trees and everything, as opposed to, the very faded and kind of darker looking tone that we had in the last film.
Yeah, it is really pretty, and it's the animation itself. I mean, obviously, it's fun monsters and things like that to really feel dynamic in comparison to Grave of the Fireflies. But it is a very pretty film, and I mean, that's kind of the the art style of Ghibli films and Miyazaki films is this kind of really put a lot of detail into the scenery around them, so that you always have, even in throwaway little scenes, there's always something kind of nice to look at, which is nice. I don't think that this of the Miyazaki films that I have watched, I don't necessarily think anything in this stands out when it comes to the way that the world looks, or general, you know, prettiness of the world, I guess, or general kind of look of the world. It to me, it is the most average, because I think they were trying to really portray the actual place that this is based out of really well, and I just don't think it stands out as much because of that.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it was just part of it is the just the choice in colors that make it stand out. And actually, one of the people that I was going to bring up as we were going on in this discussion is Kazuo Oga, who was the art director for this film. And this was his first film with Studio Ghibli, and would go on to,
Can I guess that he did he do Kiki's Delivery Service as well?
in some yes. Uh, Oga would be, so they served on as background art as here's the films that they served as the art director for. They would end up coming back for Only Yesterday, Pompoko, Princess Mononoke, and The Tales of Princess Kaguya.
Huh. The first two don't surprise me because they're very, regular world kind of feel like this one. They don't get as fantastical.
Yep.
But then Princess Mononoke kind of throws that for a bit of a curveball.
Yep. But you are correct in the fact that they also worked as a background artist, and the Ghibli movies that they worked on as a background artist were Kiki's Delivery Service, Whisper of the Heart, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, Ponyo, The Secret World of Arrietty, and When Marnie Was There.
So all the other ones.
So all the other ones, basically, yes.
I mean, it's nice that Ghibli kind of they go back to the well. They work with people a lot that really gives them their signature style that you notice throughout the films.
Yeah. Well,
and they also grow when they make things too. I mean, this
yes.
Like I could guess the background of this one was similar to Kiki's Delivery Service. That's not to say it's the same, but it's got a similar kind of feel to it. But I would never have guessed that they were also part of Howl's Moving Castle.
Yes. Yeah, it's always interesting to look. And I mean, each animated movie has hundreds of people, that are working as animators, background artists, and art directors. Obviously, it was easier to see what films that Kazuo Oga had done as art director, because there's only one art director as opposed to the dozens of animators that are on each project. So, and of course, the storyboards were mostly done by Hayao Miyazaki himself, as he's done for basically all of his movies. Even up to The Wind Rises.
And most likely for the one that he is in development of now.
Well, but that one hasn't come out yet, so we can't say that one for sure.
That's why I said most likely.
Yes.
So this movie, I mean, it's a very simple plot. It's family moves to the country. Really, you're only introduced to the two little girls and the dad at first. Find out that the mom's sick and she's gonna come live with them. What the older girl's going to school, the young girl stays home. Young girl finds kind of this fantastical world with trolls. Totoro, which is a mispronunciation of the Japanese word for troll, Toruru.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think it's Toruru or something similar to that. Yeah.
And then they go on a couple little mini adventures with Totoro. Nothing really, honestly, real big. They're very, very much these things that you could go. They run outside and make a giant tree grow in the yard while the dad's sleeping, and they stand at a bus stop with him. Like it's little things, little kind of fantastical, imaginary friend kind of feel things, and eventually it leads into May, the younger sister, running away when she finds out that her mom can't come home because she's too sick. And they go searching for her. There is a little subplot of they find a shoe in the lake, which at which point they find out that it's not her shoe.
Yeah.
And the moment they find out it's not her shoe, they stop looking in the lake and they go, "Oh, must be some other child. We don't care about this other child."
Yeah, that was the one thing that I can slightly criticize this movie about, is like so much is hanging on this. Oh, they found a shoe in the pond. which is like one of the only times that Kanta, who's the male child who lives like he's the other neighbor, down the road, who's the weirdest character in some aspects of this movie, because he barely speaks and is very awkward around girls.
Yeah, how weird is that?
I mean, it's I've seen it. It's real. I've seen it and done that.
I thought he was the most realistic character I've ever seen in a Miyazaki film. At one point in time, he like I forget what he does exactly, but he does something that isn't really that big of a deal, but he feels so proud of himself right after he does it. Is it when it's when he gives her the umbrella and then runs away. And he just feels so proud of himself that he did such a great thing.
Yeah, he's like, and also how he gives her the umbrella as well. Let's talk about that. So it's the scene where they're raining, where they're coming back from school. Setsuko had it was one of the days that their father was at the university, so May was left with nanny, and Setsuko was at school, but May threw a tantrum and wanted to be with her sister, and so they're coming back and they realize that it's going to start raining, and neither of them have an umbrella. They're hiding underneath this, little. I think it's actually a shrine,
Yes.
and it's a shrine, I believe, to it's a Buddhist.
I think it's a Shinto shrine.
Yeah, it's a Shinto shrine, but it's actually like the protector of like wayward souls. I can't remember if it's that one or when May goes missing. But they're at this little shrine, and getting cover from the rain, and Kanta comes up and just shoves the umbrella like at them, like, take this. And then Setsuko finally takes it, and then he just runs away, but so proud of himself.
It's the closest to talking to a girl he's ever been.
Well, apart from earlier in the movie where he delivered a package, then ran out to the yard, turned around, and just yells, "Your house is haunted!"
I did forget about the house is haunted part of it. Yep. Yeah, no, he's very believable.
Yeah.
he is like how I was as a child to the T.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and you get the him talking about the house being haunted, them telling their dad, and I realized, especially in my rewatch, the second time I watched it for this, the dad's like one of my favorite characters because he's so calm throughout the entire movie. Like, no, nothing can faze him. It's all good. And it very much sets the tone as they talk about like the soot sprites and like the stuff that's up in the attic, and the girls are freaking out a little bit, and they talk to her dad. It's like, "Dad, we think the house is haunted," and his response is just like, "Oh, I've always wanted to live in a haunted house."
Yeah,
sounds awesome.
It's just a solid dad response. Also, I mean, he's the dad of two young girls with a sick mother, so he does a really. I mean, they do a good job of portraying him as this dad that is definitely putting on this great front for his two little girls to make sure that they're having a happy, good time.
Yep. Yeah, and even like when they're in the bathhouse and they start hearing the noises and start getting scared, and he's just like, "Oh, just laugh it off." Like, just laugh it off and kind of keep that positive energy going, and that's what'll get you through this night. Which kind of I actually realize actually kind of the only time that you're concerned about the characters is actually when Setsuko loses that positivity and she yells at May. because she's so scared about their mom, and that's when May runs away.
Yeah, no, and it show it. I mean, and they do a good job of saying that the sisters have to. It's the little things that they hint towards, which are really nice. The sisters have to look out for each other, and that they're stronger together to get through this. And they kind of hint towards that in a lot of different ways that they play off in this movie.
Yeah.
I this is the first introduction of the soot sprites as well, which you'll see again in Spirited Away.
Yeah.
In a pretty prominent role, and they kind of explain what soot sprites are in this movie, which they don't. I don't believe they really explain what they are. They just call them soot sprites in Spirited Away, so it's pretty much under the assumption that you already knew what a soot sprite was.
Oh,
Not
okay.
that they're a very complicated idea. They're living dirt.
Yeah. Yep. And then one of the other things, so we actually glossed over it, but the opening credits are the most charming, just ridiculously happy opening credits that Ghibli has done that I can remember of all the Ghibli movies that I've seen.
Yeah, the opening credits to this one is it's a it's like the closing credits of a slice of life anime. Like it's straight up like little drawings and a and a song, and I think it's Totoro 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 Totoro, like something like that.
Yeah, and it's just so catchy and just like, oh, I'm happy now because of this. And then the entire time it's just May marching. Of course, you don't know who May is yet, but I mean, she ends up being kind of the main character of the movie. And May actually kind of marches that same way when she first encounters the Totoros.
And I do feel like that they did that because of the combination of the two films.
Yes.
That they did the really over the top, like fun, sweet opening song that they don't really do in any other movie, just because they knew that emotions were riding high right before this.
Yes. Yeah,
And
it's
they
like
had
you.
to find a way to bring them in right away into this, to be like, okay, we can calm down now. Cool, cool, cool.
Yep, you can calm down and watch, and really, like, if it weren't for the like positive outlook that this movie has, some of these character designs would be a little scary.
Oh yeah, it's the I mean, I mentioned him earlier. It's kind of the Don Bluth fashion of character design, which is also a Ghibli fashion of like everything that is fun is also scary. Like there's a terrifying aspect to everything, but being as they're little kids, they see the fun and sweetness in these terrifying, giant toothed screaming monster, that instead of being afraid of it screaming at you, they were just like, oh, fun.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
the first time you see like I think it's the Totoro or King Totoro, like May's on top of it, it screams at it, and then May just screams back at it.
yeah, and then laughs and like cuddles with her with him and takes a nap with him.
Yeah.
It's just, and it turns out that it is a sweet troll and
Yes.
not a bad troll, so it works out fine. But like this could easily have been a scary creature. Like,
Yeah, yeah, if you think of the description, this probably 8 foot tall, hairy, huge teeth, claws, looks like a giant bear, you know, creature, but it's the most cuddly, charming little thing ever. Well, the chibi version
yeah.
is the most adorable thing in this movie. But so you've got the super little version, the slightly bigger version, and then the huge version. And I love May seeing the little one at first, and like the little one's reaction to May being able to see it, because it's like slightly transparent at first, and it's just walking around, and then it becomes less and less, transparent and more opaque, and then you just see it turn around, look at May like, "What? You can see me? Why? I gotta get away from this creature. I don't know what this is." As it tries to scurry away, and May keeps running after it.
I mean, the granny kind of sets it up before, saying like, when I was your age, I could see these things too. To the idea that they're real, not fake. It's just you have to have a childlike mind to see it,
Yeah, which I really like that they play with that throughout the movie. I like the fact that the kids can see these creatures, but you never break that imagination of like the adults, like, because I've seen it in other movies where it's like, oh, this is an imaginary character, and then an adult will walk into the room and you see that the kid is clearly just playing with themselves or playing with something that's not there. And this movie never does that, really. Like, the dad never sees them, Granny never sees he's the Totoros, but they also never don't see them. Like, even you can almost have the conceit later in, like, as the cat bus is running around and runs through, that the adults are just too caught up in their own selves to notice it more than, like, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and they hint at that pretty well, like in the tree growing scene where they even show the shadow of the tree in the house, but the dad just doesn't turn around to look at it.
Yep. And I love the fact that as the cat bus is running towards the end,
I don't want to talk about the cat bus.
No, but I get to talk about another creature that you like, because as that thing is running, a dog's actually barking at it.
Oh, I did not even notice that because I was too busy being terrified of the cat bus.
No. I mean, it's a terrifying thing. It's the most terrifying thing in this entire movie. But I do love the fact that, yeah, as it's like running around as they're searching for May, it goes past the adults. The adults, think nothing of it. But then there's this dog in like one of the houses that's just barking at it. And yeah, I just wrote, haha, the dog is barking at a cat bus.
Yeah, I completely just kind of breezed right by that.
And so actually, speaking of that, because it might have been a difference in the sound design, and as well what I did for this movie and what I'm actually going to try to do moving forward, because I think we've talked about this before on how basically I end up watching these movies twice. Once to kind of get my general overall impression of it without having to go too in-depth thinking over it too much, and then a second time to take notes. And with this time around, I actually did the first time I watched it in English as normal, like we normally do, and actually the second time I watched it in Japanese.
So that's why when I went to turn on again, it jumped right to the Japanese track.
Yes, it did. I was going to tell you about that, but then I couldn't have told you it on the podcast. So
that's true. Cool. What'd you think?
Really good. Like the voice acting was really solid in both versions. Nothing that super stood out, but I mean, like we've kind of said, that's kind of this movie overall, and it's just a very good, well-made movie that, towards the end, like, I feel like a lot of why people love this movie is nostalgia, but it's not because it's a fantastic movie, like life-changing movie. But it's never, nothing's bad about it, and I like I said, I like the fact that it has this, it gives you this outlook as well, that to keep your positivity going and kind of try and find always the bright side on all these situations.
This movie is still the bottom of my list.
Okay.
I don't know. I get it. I get the allure. It is cute. It is a neat little story. I hate the cat bus. That might have part to do with it for me, but
I think that has a lot to do with it. Yeah.
I just don't feel like it's subtle fantasticalism, which is fine. It just doesn't really draw me in. So like when I go to watch, or even when I fast forward to like different pieces, which I did earlier today to rewatch certain scenes, like even the scenes that are kind of like the bigger and more fun scenes to me are still just like, eh. Like I could take it or leave it with this one. I'm sure I'll get a lot of flack from some friends for that statement, but it's just not. I don't know. It's just not me. I guess it's just not my.
Yeah, no, I get that.
It's probably the least my cup of tea of all the movies, which is weird because I did like Ponyo, which is very very similar in the way that they make these movies, but I just feel like the scenes where, and we'll get into Ponyo obviously much later, but the scenes where they're doing fantastical things, there's more going on and more to look at in the scenery and everything that's happening. And this one, it's just kind of dull.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we are at our very first where we are on polar opposites, cuz this is like my second favorite movie that we've watched so far. Well, second best movie that I think we've watched so far. So yeah. And like you said, you're it's towards the bottom, whereas I really enjoyed this. So,
Yeah. I mean, it's not that I didn't enjoy it. It's still a good movie.
yeah.
It's just not that exciting of a movie. And movies don't have to be exciting to be good. But I don't know. I feel like when it is more of a fantastical, more of a fun and lovey movie, that there has to be some more. I don't know, more. um, I don't know whether it's
Yeah, no, yeah, I get where you're coming from on that.
like this is a very well built world that I don't even know if I can say that because they kind of just jump right into it rather than building it. I just think this movie's just fine. It's
Okay.
just fine. Would I go back and watch this again afterwards? Maybe if I have a child in 27 years. No sooner. I vow to be 60 years old at my first kid. But I don't see myself going back and watching this movie again.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, whereas yeah, like this, I mean, part of why I knew I could handle watching this one in Japanese for the rewatch was the fact that I did like it, to begin with. So I was like, "Oh, let's try something and let's experiment." And honestly, part of it might be the fact that it's such a polar change from our last film that I think I'm just happy to be watching a movie that's happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that is true. I mean it is a jump.
Yeah.
Did you know there will never be a sequel to this movie?
How come?
Uh they say that Studio Ghibli and Miyazaki have said that they do not want to ever do another one of these, that they have no problem using this as reference throughout and in other movies and everything like that, but that this is they did what they wanted to do in this movie, and they think they did it right, and they just don't need to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that makes sense as well cuz I mean, really Ghibli as a whole has what, one sequel?
Yeah, The Cat Returns.
Yeah. So, yeah, it makes sense to me that yeah, they don't want to. It's like, no, we've already done that. Why would we go back?
Yeah. But that doesn't stop them from, you know, from Totoro popping up in Toy Story 3. I want to say it was, or
Yes.
or
That sounds right.
other Disney and Pixar films for sure, because Totoro has been considered a big.
Well, I think
Um,
Totoro's in the background of Brave too. Like it's on like one of the like totem like poles.
I
It's just
would
kind of
not. I would not doubt that.
yeah, it's just kind of carved into the background at one point because they like doing those little Easter eggs. So
But I mean, this was influential. I'm glad that this movie exists. It's just, yeah, I don't really have any. I don't know how much else I have to say about this movie. I'm sorry.
oh no 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 no, it's fine. And we knew, especially given the fact that it was also a shorter movie. There wasn't as much to dig into as far as like tone and that kind of stuff, and so yeah, we knew this was going to be a shorter episode for sure. And yeah, and I like the fact that we were able to at least establish that, like, okay, we're kind of thought of this in very different ways, which is nice for the discussion.
Yeah, we each have our own opinions on what we what's our own bag and everything. So I knew this would happen eventually.
Yes, and we are both too stubborn to admit that we're wrong, and we definitely will never be able to change the other person's mind.
I mean, on whether this is a really really good movie or not, no, because I don't think. I mean, like I said, I don't think I would want to change your mind on this opinion because I think it has more to do with as you said, nostalgia and when you saw it originally and what the movie itself means to you in that regard than the movie itself. Like I can see why people like this movie.
Yes.
I just don't as much because
Yep.
it's a good. It's not a bad movie. I'm definitely not saying it's a bad movie. It is still a good movie. It is still better than a lot of movies out there, and I think this is a very good movie for kids. Like I think this is a fantastic movie for kids. In fact, if I saw this as a kid, though, would I have been into it? Probably not. I was watching a lot of He-Man and Transformers, and it just wouldn't have had enough action for me when I was younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely not bad.
One thing we can agree with each other though, and I wrote this in my notes throughout the movie. Setsuko and Kanta are definitely going to be dating in high school, right?
No, he's gonna get friend zoned so hard.
See, that's more of my positive outlook, and you just being negative.
Sorry, bro. I mean, he's gonna get super hard friend zoned. He is befriending her very well right now. In the movie at the time period this has happened, and definitely they would end up probably playing with each other and everything. After this all goes down, and he has a female friend now, and then as it switched to high school, she will move on to someone else. I don't know.
Yeah. Um. So
Glad I
so
could
so
throw that out there.
yeah. So the other thing though, I like. I almost do wish they would at least do a short.
There's a cat bus in May short.
Okay, yeah. Cause I actually like the little teases that they do in the end of in the end credits of, you know, May. It looks like May goes to like a daycare or something, and definitely controls the daycare because it
Hmm.
looks like she has all these little minion babies.
Yeah. I mean, there is some world building done at the end that could lead to something kind of fun in a Totoro world kind of style.
Yeah.
And it's
Uh.
nice because the mother comes back home in that as well.
Yes. That's nice.
And it looks like they might have a little brother.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, yeah, if the baby's a little brother, or if it's, yeah, like somebody from a daycare or something. So, final thoughts, and then do your plugs.
I think I've relayed my thoughts pretty well on this one. I've done a lot of talking about great for kids. Watch this with your 8-year-olds. You know, uh, yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
So make sure to follow me at Knocked Out Films on Instagram, Twitter, and check out this podcast and find this podcast at knockedoutentertainment.com. And make sure to like and subscribe on the YouTube channel.
Listen to Fantasy Hangover. Hopefully, we'll have another episode of that soon. We're just doing them intermittently right now with the way of the world. And Go vote. Make sure to vote absentee or in person, however you got to do it. Just vote. Next time we will be doing Kiki's Delivery Service, I believe.
Yes, that is our next film.
And yeah. Anything else?
No, because I haven't seen Kiki's, so I have no idea what to expect, really.
Oh, this will be interesting. I haven't seen it in a long, long time.
Okay.
All right. Well, be good to each other.